scare you into thinking that we're going to do exposition line by line. But what I want you to be prayerful about is the passage as a whole. Amen. And let me just ask you a question concerning this passage. What legacy will you leave?
Amen. All right. That's a good one.
What legacy will you leave? Amen. And now, brothers have to recognize that as leaders and as men of God, and as those who have been given an assignment, recognize that there's a particular and peculiar work that you should be about. All right. And the good news is the Lord never gives an assignment and does not equip us to do the assignment.
Right. Amen.
Now that's shouting stuff right there. To know that I've been given an assignment and I don't have to figure everything out on my own. Remember, the assignment comes from the Lord.
Amen. Yeah,
He and He alone has ordained it. And the Lord doesn't give an assignment to see if we're going to fail.
Come on. All right.
But He wants us to be successful.
Right. Yeah.
Amen. My brother, my sister, the Lord prescribes a pattern and a prerequisite for success.
Come on. Yeah.
The Lord doesn't want any of us failing.
Yeah. Right.
Now, brothers, men in particular, this morning, the Lord doesn't want you to become a basket case for failure.
All right.
He wants you to move toward the end. The end result is an ultimate glorification of God, and success is in that.
Come on. Yeah.
Are y'all walking with me?
Come on.
So it does all of us well to recognize that everything God has prescribed in His Word, He knows that there will be apprehension and there will be anxiety attached to it. I mean, most of that, much of it, He recognized that we can't do it on our own. We need His help.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. When you recognize you need His help, that's when you can gain the help from Him that you need the most.
Yeah. That's it. You're right, sir.
God never places us out on the choppy seas of life and allow us to, just be tossed to and fro here and there with no sense of direction. No, God's more intelligent than that. God's more sovereign than that. God, amen. God knows the beginning and the end, right? He knows what it's going to take to get us to where He wants us to be. And in the process of that, there's some things that we're going to leave. There's some principles. There's some patterns. There's some habits. Amen. Amen. There are some holy and unholy habits that we're going to have to deal with. They're going to be left there. Amen. Good, bad, and indifferent. Just going to have to learn. Amen. To have the Spirit of God, which is discerning enough to let us know what's profitable and what's unprofitable. Well, amen. Come on. So it's good news this morning just to be able to know that my assignment is not a lonesome nor solo assignment. All right. God is going to, God is going to bless me. He's going to give me His guidance. He's going to give me His presence. Lord have mercy. Just to be able to get to the place where He's taking me. I don't know about you. That's worthy of celebration. Amen. That's worthy of celebration. Because, listen, every brother under the sound of my voice this morning, you've got to deal with the reality that you're leaving something. All right. Yeah. All right. You're leaving a legacy. Amen. by your deportment, by your presence, by the gaps in your ministry and your marriage and what the Lord has assigned to your hand. If you're not working toward that in a dutiful and diligent way, then you're leaving a legacy there. Amen. Yeah, it's not all good. Amen. The world said it's all good. Well, the Lord doesn't say it's all good. Well, amen. You've got to deal with the implications, amen, of what's at stake in your deportment, in your legacy.
Yeah.
So I ask you this morning, what are you going to leave?
Come on. All right.
What are you going to leave that's positive by way of your assignment as a leader in the church, as a man of God, as a man that's filled with God's unfeigned faith, and it's manifesting itself not just on the church ground, but on your ground at home.
All right.
How are you going to leave that? What does it say about you as a man of God? Maybe like Paul was addressing this church at Corinth, maybe you are just satisfied with vain carnality. Amen. You live one way on Sunday and another all week long.
All right. Come on, son.
How is that when you can appear to have a halo on Sunday, but you're solo, amen, on Monday and nobody sees it? You missed it right there. Sees no holiness in your testimony. Paul addressed this tendency from these men, these leaders here, who were ministers, and they were laborers together. Yeah, that's brotherhood, that's unity. Yeah, y'all walking with me there. They were to be congealing one with another. Why? Because there was a model and a force that they were to put on display before all of the pagans that were around them, that they needed to shine bright against the dark backdrop of those that were accusing Paul and those that adhered to Paul's message as being foolish and flaky and filled with falsehood. Paul took the time out to say to them in no uncertain terms that as ministers we are laborers together. And when we labor, you got to make sure you got the right foundation. Foundation is important, right? And as a leader and as a man in God's kingdom and in his church and in the family of God, you got to make sure that you're not building on a house that's on a foundation of sand, and it's prickly and it's got cracks in it, and everything can creep in there, amen. So you got to make sure if the foundation is not right, I don't care what you build on it, it won't last. Some of us are trying to build, amen, marriages and ministry, off a prickly foundation. We won't work. Amen. No, it won't work. We're trying to build momentum off of a foundation that God has not prescribed. But I tell you, when you get the right foundation, y'all moving out of an introduction. I said, when you get the right foundation, when you know that the foundation that I read for you earlier has already been established by God. Now, He and He alone is the great architect. He has given us the blueprint of 66 books that we must learn to not only read, amen, but receive the reality from its reading. Are y'all still with me there? What he says in no uncertain terms is that, listen, if you're going to be leaders, if you're going to be men led by the motivation of the Spirit of God, and you're laboring together, you're not amen, you're not competitors, but you're colleagues. Yeah. Get no help in here. So much time we bring too much competition on Sunday morning when we ought to be bringing a congealed, amen, and a colleague spirit together to say that we're all in this thing together. There's no big eyes, no little you. There's no super, amen, saint on the left and a lesser on the right. No, we're all working together. At least we should be. Amen. And then when we're not, it shows up. It shows up, and it shows up in the cracks in the foundation. It shows up in the lackadaisical spirit amongst those in leadership. It shows up with those who are sold and indifferent about God's agenda and their own agenda. Y'all ain't saying it. It shows up because, amen, you're giving out mixed messages. Amen. Between Sundays, you can't. You're confusing others because you're partially confused yourself. God can bring balance into that chaotic mindset. Come on, preach, Pastor Whitehead. God can do that. He's been known to bring, peace to the storm in your mental estate. Ain't nobody do it like he can. And while you still remember now, you got to answer the question, what's my legacy? Amen. If everybody in my church was just like me, what in the world would this church be? What would it really be like if everybody had my measure of faithfulness? What would it really be like if everybody had my measure of giving? What would it really be like if everybody had my measure of fellowship? What would it really be like if everybody had my measure of regular attendance? What would it be like? Be quiet there now. I understand. You ought to be quiet there because there are cracks in your foundation. But God can, yes he can. God can bring about, the healing sealant that you need. Are y'all with me right now? Well, what does Paul say to the church at Corinth? This church that was so carnal, who was so on the cusp of worldliness, who was so caught up in their own mindset about God and about God's people and about his church. Amen. They had seemingly one foot in the world and the other foot in the church. Amen. They wore mixed match shoes, like these kids do nowadays. They come to school wearing, mixed match shoes, and they tell me that's the style now. You old fogey. I said, well, I'm thinking that there's something lacking going on in at the house. They can't buy you the same pair of shoes or what? No, but you got folks like that today. They love to give out mixed messages. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Paul says to this church, look at here, there's something you need to understand. If we're going to be brothers, then we're brothers across the board. If we're going to be leaders, we're leaders across the board. Now, see, the problem is we adhere to the buddy system rather than the brother system. But when the Lord is leading like he leads and you're following like you should follow, the end result is going to be about fruitfulness. Well, notice now, you don't take my word for it. Paul says, for we are laborers together with God. Did y'all read that? In other words, who you working with? You got to be working with the Lord. He said, for God is our husbandry. He is the one. Listen, it's God's building. Verse 9. Ye are God's